She stood on my dock with her arms crossed, shouting so loud the neighbors peeked through their windows. "Fishing here is banned. This lake belongs to the HOA now." I almost laughed because the lake was part of my grandfather's land deed, passed down to me. But before I could respond, she waved a piece of paper and smirked. "Starting today, you're trespassing." I stayed calm, even though inside I was boiling. I had spent years taking care of this lake, cleaning it, stocking fish, keeping it alive, and now she was acting like I was some thief. 2 days later, I noticed something strange. Dead fish floated near the shore, and the water smelled sharp, like chemicals. My dog wouldn't even go near it. I knew right away it wasn't natural. Someone had poisoned the water. That same evening, I caught sight of HOA trucks parked near the dam. Karen was there too, whispering with the board members. She pointed at my cabin and laughed. That was all I needed to see to put the pieces together. They had destroyed my lake just to stop me from fishing. I clenched my fists, but I didn't confront them. Not yet. Because what they didn't realize, the very water they poisoned flowed directly into their own community's supply, and when their taps started running foul, I was going to be ready with proof. "Funny thing about poison," I whispered to myself, "it never stays where you put it." The first complaints rolled in faster than I expected. I was walking back from the dock when I heard Karen's shrill voice echo across the cul-de-sac. "Why is the water brown? My kids can't even shower." A cluster of neighbors surrounded her, holding bottles of foul-smelling tap water. Some even had rashes on their arms. Karen tried to calm them down, waving her hands like she had everything under control, but I could see the panic on her face. She didn't know I was watching from the edge of my porch. Later that night, 2 HOA board members showed up at my cabin. They didn't knock politely, they banged on the door like they owned the place. "You did this," one of them shouted the moment I opened. "You poisoned the lake out of spite." I almost laughed at how twisted their story was. By the third day, the HOA was drowning in chaos. Families lined up outside Karen's house, furious, holding empty jugs and demanding answers. One mother screamed, "My son ended up in the ER after drinking this water!" Karen's fake confidence cracked. She tried blaming the city, claiming it was a municipal problem, but everyone knew the lake fed their supply, and the only one who had touched that lake was her. I stayed quiet, watching the storm build, but I wasn't just sitting around. I had already called in a friend, an old buddy from my military days who now worked as an environmental officer. When he arrived with his testing kit, Karen rushed over, trying to block him. "You can't take samples here!" she screeched. He simply flashed his badge. "Lady, I don't need your permission." Her face went pale. While he gathered evidence, I pulled out my phone and played the footage I had captured. HOA trucks unloading barrels by the dam, board members sneaking around at night, and Karen pointing at the water, laughing. The neighbors froze. For a moment, there was only silence. Then, an eruption of angry voices. "She poisoned our water!" one man yelled. Another shouted, "She could have killed my kids!" Karen stumbled back, trying to escape the mob of furious residents, but this time there was no way out. The truth had finally hit home, and it wasn't just about fishing anymore. Karen's world collapsed in front of everyone. The environmental officer sealed the lake with caution tape and announced, "This water is officially hazardous. Whoever dumped chemicals here will be facing federal charges." The crowd gasped, and all eyes turned to Karen. She tried to speak, her voice trembling. "This is all a mistake! We only wanted to stop him from—" But the words slipped out before she realized, and the gasps turned into roars. She had confessed without meaning to. I stepped forward, calm but firm. "You poisoned my family's lake just to stop me from fishing. But you didn't think about your own people, your own kids." My voice carried, and the neighbors nodded, their anger now laser-focused. The HOA board scrambled after Karen's arrest.
At the emergency meeting, the remaining members sat red-faced while the community hurled questions at them. Did you all know about this? Were you part of it too? The silence from the board told everyone the truth. They had followed Karen's lead, and now they were just as guilty in the public eye. I stood up from the back row, holding the original land deed. The room quieted instantly. This lake has belonged to my family for nearly a century, I said. My grandfather dug these banks, my father kept it alive, and I've protected it all my life. Karen tried to erase that with one fake notice. But paper doesn't change the truth. Ownership does. I placed the deed on the table for everyone to see. A murmur rippled through the crowd. One neighbor whispered, "So it was never the HOA's to begin with." Another added, "We've been paying fees for something that wasn't even theirs." The outrage spread like wildfire. People began demanding refunds, questioning every rule the HOA had forced on them. The HOA tried to calm the storm, promising investigations and internal reviews, but no one was listening anymore. They had lost all authority. And as I watched them squirm, I realized something important. The power Karen thought she had was only real as long as people believed in it. Now, that illusion was gone. For the first time, the neighborhood looked at me not as a target, but as the man who exposed the truth. Days later, the lake was still taped off, but the community was buzzing with change. Neighbors who used to ignore me now waved when I walked by. Some even came to my cabin with pies and casseroles, thanking me for standing up to Karen. "You saved us," one elderly woman said, her voice shaking. "We trusted her for years, and she nearly poisoned our children." I didn't feel like a hero, but I knew one thing. I wasn't the victim anymore. Meanwhile, the news had picked up the story. Reporters showed up, cameras rolling, capturing shots of the dead fish, the barrels pulled from the dam, and Karen's mugshot plastered on every screen. "HOA president arrested for poisoning lake," the headline read. The coverage spread like wildfire, and suddenly people across the state were talking about property rights, corrupt HOAs, and how Karen's trial came quicker than anyone expected. The courtroom was packed with neighbors, reporters, and even parents from nearby towns who'd heard about the poisoned water. She walked in, shackled, still trying to carry herself like she was in charge. When the judge read the charges, environmental destruction, public endangerment, and criminal trespassing, her face finally cracked. The prosecution wasted no time. They played the footage I had captured on my phone. Karen laughing by the dam, HOA trucks unloading barrels. The jury gasped. Then my friend, the environmental officer, testified about the toxins in the water and how close the community had come to a disaster. Every word buried Karen deeper. She tried blaming the board, the city, even me, but no one was buying it anymore. When it was my turn to speak, I stood slowly, looking right at the jury. This lake wasn't just water to me. It was family. They tried to take it away, not with honesty, but with poison. And when they poisoned it, they poisoned their own people. My voice caught in my throat, but I pushed on. I fought for this country overseas. I never thought I'd have to fight for my own backyard. The courtroom was silent when I sat down. Even the judge seemed moved. Karen's attorney tried one last desperate argument, but it was over before it began. The jury only needed an hour. Guilty on all counts. Karen screamed as the bailiffs dragged her out, but no one listened anymore. Justice had finally caught up. Weeks after the verdict, the lake finally began to breathe again. Crews worked day and night, flushing out the poisoned water, planting reeds along the shore, and releasing new fish. The neighbors volunteered too. Fathers with their kids hauling trash, mothers carrying buckets, teens scooping dead branches from the shallows. For the first time, the lake wasn't just mine. It belonged to all of us. The HOA was officially dissolved. The board resigned in disgrace, their fake authority shattered. Without Karen's rules strangling everyone, the neighborhood felt lighter, freer. People laughed on porches again, kids rode their bikes past my cabin, and nobody cared who approved it. The fear was gone. One evening, as the sun dipped low, I cast a line from my dock. My dog sat beside me, tail wagging, while a few neighbors cheered from the shore. The bobber rippled across the water, and for a moment I thought of my grandfather,